At first, I didn't think it was real. I woke up to this blinding light, and I was transported to another place. Pluto TV! Then I heard a voice.
Come with me if you want to live.
There were thousands of movies and shows, and they were all free.
The truth is
It's just so beautiful.
On Pluto TV, free streaming of Terminator 2, Fringe, Arrow, The 100, and The X-Files may cause excitement, loss of sleep, and sudden belief in extraterrestrials. No credit cards or alien encounters necessary. Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.
Okay, I have to tell you, I was just looking on eBay where I go for all kinds of things I love, and there it was.
That hologram trading card. One of the rarest, the last one I needed for my set. Shiny like the...
designer handbag of my dreams. One of a kind. eBay had it, and now everyone's asking, ooh, where'd you get your...
windshield wipers. eBay has all the parts that fit my car. No more annoying, just beautiful.
Millions of finds, each with a story. eBay. Things people love.
Three, two, one. Welcome to another Britflix.com podcast. My name is Stuart Wright, and today's guest is my first political one. As a screenwriter based in Beeston, a town on the outskirts of Nottingham, the biggest conurbation in the East Midlands region, I was impressed when I saw Claire Ward, the Mayor of East Midlands, speak at the opening night of Beeston Film Festival, of which I'm a jury member, back in April 2026. I was even more delighted to learn that the Mayor is someone who knows about the importance of UK film industry, given her proximity to the world-famous Elstree Studios as a councillor and mayor in Elstree and Boreham Wood. A place, if you don't know Elstree, famous for Star Wars, Indiana Jones trilogy, The Shining, and more recently King's Speech and the Paddington movies, to name but a few iconic productions. Also, as a Member of Parliament, Claire was also got an inside national government look via her work with Department of Culture, Media and Sport, DCMS, select committees in the early noughties. Welcome to the Britflix podcast, Mayor of East Midlands, Claire Ward.
Thank you very much. Great to join you today.
Brilliant. Right. Well, because you have such a wealth of experience and your current role, we're going to tackle two broad areas in terms of the economic development of film and TV industry in the UK. Firstly, we'll look at how national government through DCMS and other departments can or should influence what happens in our region. And then taking a closer look at East Midlands, find out plans or hopes to attract film and TV production or investment to the region. And then we'll go into three films that have impacted everything in your adult life, of which I have my list ready to go. Does that sound like what you signed up for?
Well, I think so. And I'm very happy to talk about films, but I'm also happy to talk about the potential for the film industry and that creative and digital here in the East Midlands.
Fantastic. That's music to my ears. Right then, let us start with the macro question then. How does national government shape or influence what happens in the regions when it comes to the film and TV industries?
So I think they help to shape it quite a bit. But what devolution is about is us being able to shape what we want in the region. Mm-hmm. And I feel really strongly about that. I think we are a region in the East Midlands, and that covers Nottingham, Nottinghamshire, Derby and Derbyshire from my perspective, a population of nearly 2.3 million people. And I think we're an area that traditionally has been a bit left behind, hasn't been invested in the same way. And yet when you look at the assets that we have, and very much focused for a moment on those film and creative industries, we have so much potential here. We know that we have been the place where we've had a lot of filming interests and activities, definitely locations here across the region, whether it be Chatsworth for Pride and Prejudice or some of the Mission Impossible. We know that the Lara Croft opportunities, everything that came out of that was started in Derby, which is reason why they've got a Lara Croft way. Mm-hmm. You know, there's so much in that, but you wouldn't think about it. You wouldn't see it so much when you think about the region. And that's why I was really excited to come along to the Beeston Film Festival, because what the organisers there have been doing over the last few years is really building that reputation and doing so in a way that makes it, again, something that's about the local people, but is also something that reaches out far beyond our region. And it's great too to see that it isn't just Beeston. We've got Mansfield Film Festival as well. And I suspect we'll see a lot more of that over coming years if we support, invest and encourage in these creative industries.
So then, drilling down a little closer to home and looking at the East Midlands from your office's point of view, what are the plans or ambitions for attracting film and TV production or funding to the region?
So when we put it into context, I say that this is an area that's been underinvested. What devolution brings is some money and some responsibility and powers so that we can decide our own priorities. So government devolves that money. Now, in the longer term, I think government should devolve more power and more money because we know what is right for our region. And so one of the things that we have done is in setting out our local growth plan. So this is what all the regions with mayors are expected to do, is to kind of decide what your priorities are. We've got 5 sectors that we think are really important. Advanced manufacturing, you would think that anyway, because if you think about our heritage and places like Rolls-Royce and Toyota and Alstom and all of those supply chains. So advanced manufacturing, really important to us. Green growth, again, because we've got fusion energy, we have nuclear with the submarine fusion and SMR potential. So that's a really important area and sector for us. Biosciences and life tech, of course, you think about Beeston, you also think about Boots and everything that stems out off of that with our specialism in that. The fourth one is the creative and digital, because when you think again about Nottingham and the wider Nottinghamshire area and outside of the city, whether it be creative, things like Warhammer and Games Workshop, but also that creative and technical digital pocket of expertise that sits around that area. I believe it's something like the second largest outside of London. We really need to make much more of that. And I think that creative also sits in with our potential for film industry as well. And our fifth growth area is the visitor economy. Think about the amazing places, some of which are locations for filming, but think about all of those things that we have in this region, those assets, those real gems, not just the Peak District, but everything about the legends, the Robin Hood, Sherwood Forest, the great places to visit. We need to make much more of that. So for me, the potential is to harness those, to see us investing into visitor economy, creative sector, and encouraging more of that that's homegrown in our region, but also shouting about it nationally and internationally, which of course is what you're doing with the Beeston Film Festival, bringing in international interests. But we need to do much more of that. We need to think about how we can support the skills that are needed for these sectors and industries. So again, as a region, as mayor, I'm responsible for Adult Skills Fund. That's been devolved from government nationally. I want to be able to make sure our skills pipelines focus and support our growth sectors. So having set out what those 5 areas are, that's where we need the skills pipeline to also support. So I think for us, it is about encouraging those businesses, encouraging those opportunities for people to get into the creative, the tech, the digital, but also really arts areas, because art should not just be about economic value. It should be about the value it brings to our lives, how much we all enjoy it, how much we can spend time enjoying museums and art and film and creative. And so that to me helps make this region a great place to live and to learn and to work. And that's what I want this region to be about.
And for local filmmakers and people who are trying to get TV made, excuse me, where could they be looking for support and or direction in terms of what they could be doing from the bottom up in terms of helping the region?
So I think what we would want them to do is to talk to us about their businesses, their potential enterprise, their opportunity to grow. And we're putting money into business support to help those businesses to grow, to be able to support startups give advice on how to be able to grow their own businesses. So again, there are opportunities for those businesses to engage with us and for and all the things that we're funding and supporting.
Brilliant. Well, look, I'll put links in the show notes to the website for the region, and hopefully that'll send some traffic your way and some exciting ideas for the region.
Well, I hope so, and I hope that we're going to see Beeston Film Festival grow even bigger next year. I hope that we're going to see Mansfield Film Festival grow bigger this year and next year, and also other places start to think about what they could do to support the film industry in their own areas.
Indeed. Well, look, let us move seamlessly along into 3 films that have impacted everything in your adult life. Now, for those that haven't heard this before, Claire's given me 3 movies, and every time we get to the end of 5 minutes, we will hear this sound, which signals the end of 5 minutes. You can hear that at your end, okay?
I can indeed.
Good. Okay, without further ado, I will introduce the first movie, and then you can tell us what the impact was and the memory it holds for you, okay?
Okay.
Cool. Clock's ticking. First up, we've Frank Capra, James Stewart Starrer from 1946, It's a Wonderful Life. A feel-good fantasy comedy with an angel sent from heaven to help a frustrated businessman see the value in his life. 80 years on from its release, the film has barely aged in terms of the universal truths it definitely exposes about the human condition and has us blubbering in the aisles every time we see it. Fun fact, Roger Ebert wrote in 1999, some movies, even good ones, should only be seen once. Other movies can be viewed an indefinite number of times. Like great music, they have improved with familiarity. It's a Wonderful Life falls into the second category. So tell me, Claire, what is the impact and memories that this film holds for you?
Well, for me, I think it encapsulates my approach to life to somewhat, which is always think about the good things that you have, value what you have in your life, and feel how lucky you are, and approach life with a sense of optimism. It doesn't mean that you don't recognize the hurdles, but for me, there is something about having a certain resilience and being able to pick yourself up and get back up and on track. And, I've had all sorts of challenges in my life, personal challenges that have been really difficult. And I think if I wasn't quite as resilient, I might find that they would have knocked me off course. So I do think resilience is important. But I love the old movies. And it's always a bit of a toss-up for me of whether you choose something like It's a Wonderful Life or other things like A Brief Encounter. Those old movies, the old black and white ones that I find for many young people, they don't have the patience to sit and watch, and because it's not color and they're quite slow. But they showed the quality of filmmaking because you had to be able to act in a way that told a story in itself. Because you don't have all of the digital and the tech that going on behind the scenes. It really was about the quality of the way in which they conveyed their feelings and the things that were unsaid sometimes that you were imagining or reading into. So it became much more about an interpretation. So I think it's a wonderful film. And it's always such a great feel-good movie when you've sat through it at the end of it. And it's a classic that I love to watch when it comes to that time of the year.
Do you remember the first time you ever saw it?
Oh, I would have been very young. I'd have been sort of probably about 6 or 7, I think.
Yeah.
And I like the old movies.
Yeah.
I actually think these days it's really difficult to find the quality of movie coming out and into the cinemas that we used to see.
Yeah.
There aren't as many movies that I would want to go and watch these days as there would have been many years ago. And I think it's a real shame. It doesn't mean that there isn't great stuff, but somehow they just don't have the same excitement in them for me.
I think that speaks to something that's in It's a Wonderful Life, that it like the Roger Ebert quote that I mentioned, in the sense that most films are just there to just, you watch them and they go and they fade into your memory. Whereas It's a Wonderful Life has qualities that mean that with every viewing, you can take something else away. I remember seeing it very young, and at first it was just this film where all the adults around me were just crying, and I didn't quite cotton on to what was going on. And then years later, I get to watch it again as an adult, and then I'm blubbing my eyes out, thinking, how did I miss this? How did I not see this? And that's what I mean by it kind of taps into a universal truth, even though it's 80 years old. I mean, that means it means that there's something hardwired into our DNA that means we want to share, we want to feel important, but we don't want to go around jazz hands going, I'm important.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I say, you mentioned at the beginning of this about my background. I grew up mostly in Boreham Wood, Elstree, around Elstree, with filmmaking at the heart of everything, and all of those old movies. And because I was on the town council when I was younger, they used to have an annual film festival.
Oh wow!
And those old stars of the black and white movies used to come to be part of that film festival every year.
Well, there's our first 5 minutes. How was that for you, Claire?
Brilliant.
Excellent. Right, well, moving swiftly along, for your second choice, we jump forward a handful of years, and in the marketing words of 1940s Hollywood, to go full Technicolor, twice as gay as Anchors Away, and experience a torrent of talent and tunes that is the classic musical starring Gene Kelly, Frank Sinatra, Betty Garrett, and Ann Miller. 1949's On the Town, where three sailors wreak havoc as they search for love during a whirlwind 24-hour shore leave in New York City. This, believe it or not, was the first musical feature film to be shot on location, and it was only 5 days filmed in New York City. But there the crew faced two major problems. One, the weather. Apparently it rained the entire shoot. And the popularity of Frank Sinatra. To avoid the crowds of fans, the cast took taxis instead of limousines to their locations. And despite these best efforts, during the New York finale, and I'm going to have to go back and watch this just to see if it's true, you can see the heads of hundreds of curious spectators in the top of the frame in the last shot of that sequence. But tell me, Claire, why does this film have impact on you, and what memories does it hold?
Well, I've always loved On the Town. A number of reasons again. First of all, I've been a Frank Sinatra fan since probably about the age of 3. I used to sit on next to my dad as he listened to Frank Sinatra albums. I'd watch all the movies, and I got to meet him.
No,
when I was when I was 7. I went to one of his concerts, and my dad talked his way through the security to get me a chance to meet him. I had a kiss from Frank Sinatra. I know he asked me to marry him. I know that these days that would not be considered a very good thing, but obviously when you're that age and so excited to meet your hero.
Yeah.
So for me, Sinatra has always been a big part of the excitement of watching musicals and his movies. But there was something about On the Town, as you say, that depicted the multicolour, the technicolor of America in that sort of time. And as you go through then the 40s and 50s films where America looked so exciting, it was my vision then and my understanding of what America looked like. I loved all of those colours and that 1950s style that came after it. But I do like musicals, and to this day, I will often turn on the television, and somewhere on normally BBC Two, there will be a Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, a Gene Kelly, a Frank Sinatra, a Judy Garland. I mean, I could have picked any one of those old movies and been equally happy. But for me, I think depicting something, and I love the On the Town because I love that New York song, and I just think there's so much in it. So it's got great memories for me.
I think it's interesting what you said there about like how the technicolor of it sort of projected an image of what or is the USA to someone watching from sort of little old England, as it were. But also, I think that speaks to the power of film, doesn't it? As a simple kind of soft power, where you can project images to the world of what life is like or what the experience is like. Not even if it's quite fanciful like this, and it's not based in realism, but it still sold an idea, didn't it?
Absolutely. And when you think about the films like the Doris Day, Rock Hudson films, where again they had that Technicolor, they had that 1950s style in the kitchens and in the houses. Everything was so exciting, I think, for people watching those. And obviously, I was born 20, 30 years after these came out, but I still found them a really exciting example of what America might have been at that time.
And I think, and you being such a fan of Frank Sinatra and thinking about what they were saying about what happened at the time of the filming, I mean, he clearly was, the archetypal movie star.
Oh, he had it all. He could sing, he could dance, he could act. He had the charm. He had everything about him, and you can see it.
Brilliant. That's our next 5 minutes. That flew. Right then, Claire, we are moving on to your final choice. And for that, we're going to fast forward to the millennium, to 2000, for the Ridley Scott epic that cemented Russell Crowe's ascension to movie star status. I'm talking about Gladiator, where a former Roman general sets out to exacting vengeance against the corrupt emperor who murdered his family and sent him into slavery. Fun facts, a couple of things. Hans Zimmer's score for this movie, which is truly amazing, I don't know if you've ever sat down and just listened to that on its own, is the best-selling movie soundtrack of all time. And Russell Crowe admitted he felt unworthy of all the praise and the Oscar for Best Actor that he got for Gladiator. He felt that it was a director's film and that the Oscar should have gone to Ridley Scott himself instead. But for you, what is it that stands out about this film that makes it have impact on you and be long in the memory?
Well, it's a number of things that you've just mentioned, actually. So when that movie came out, I was an MP in my first term as a member of Parliament in the new Labour government. And I was on the Culture, Media and Sports Select Committee.
Yeah.
And so for me, it did a number of things. It was about how you could depict that history in a way in which people could understand what had actually gone on at the time. It really made it real. It was also the digital addition to everything, the way in which they really used the technical side of it to develop the story and to make it feel as if you were there and part of the Colosseum when everything was going on. And I think the acting was absolutely outstanding. The directing was, but the acting was. And for Oliver Reed to play the role that he did, and then that was really his last. His last role, and it was actually his last role.
Yeah.
It was again a moment, I think, in British film history and the actors that were such classics on our screens. And then the film score, and I didn't know it was still the greatest selling soundtrack, because I used to use that soundtrack to go to sleep every single night. I had the CD, and when I used to get in, it was the soundtrack that I could put on and wind down immediately to.
Yeah.
I knew that I would be asleep within moments, because it would, no matter what kind of day, how late I got back, it was my immediate relaxing soundtrack, and took me to a good place to be able to get some sleep. So for all of the things you've just described, that's one of the great movies for me.
And it's interesting for me because I think the Gladiator, more than any other, and it is weird, I only found this out myself sort of getting ready for the show, that it was the best selling, because it's probably one of the first films where I properly noticed the soundtrack, and Hans Zimmer, who is often copied but never bettered, as it were. I mean, it was probably the first time I'd really noticed his name as being associated. It's a bit like if I rewound back to the film A Few Good Men, and you talk about Aaron Sorkin's screenplay, it was kind of the first time then I'd noticed that screenwriters were a thing. You know, it was always directors and actors. And so to have the kind of view of a film opened up to like, actually, there's a whole load of people that make this a good film, there's not just one author.
Absolutely. And I've always been a fan of some of the soundtracks for films. So I would often buy, in the days of CDs, the CD for something like Notting Hill, but it was a compilation of existing good songs that they brought together rather than created for a soundtrack and score that was created for the movie. Not so with Gladiator. That was absolute, just pure brilliance. And as I say, it was my soundtrack to relax to. I
had a film score composer on a couple of years ago, and I asked him about because I was reading that there's in certainly the more composed sort of scores, is that there's a kind of snobbery that exists between classical music fans and film score fans, and never the twain shall meet. And he said it's because film scores are more based in kind of jazz and rock as their origins, even though it can sound to the layperson like me, I'm not a classical music expert, like it's being classical music, but apparently not. So this is one of the sort of anomalies within music.
Well, I'm no expert on these.
Well, there we go. We'll never know, Claire. We'll never know.
You'll never know. You never know. I'm not an expert on these. I just know what I like.
And that's the beauty of subjectivity. And the great thing about the podcast when I get people on is that people can sort of pick films to try and be cooler than cool, but actually the only things you can genuinely get enthusiastic about are the things that really speak to your heart, I think. And that's a subjective thing that only you can decide.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
We have come to the end of 3 films that have impacted everything in your adult life. Thank you for sharing your memories of the 3 films you chose. And thank you for giving us an introduction into what East Midlands sees as its ambitions for film and TV industry. There's plenty for us to go at there. This will hopefully help spread the word amongst a few of my peers in the region. And I'll put links in the show notes so people can go and get more details should they need it. And it just gives me to say thank you very much for giving your time on the podcast.
Thank you very much. It's been a great pleasure. Thank you for your time as well.
Do remember to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, follow on Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts for more movies that impacted your life. And if you want to, I'd love to know what your favourite movies are, what your fondest movie memories are. So please share your favourite movies that impacted your life on Twitter. Look for @LeightonRocks. And you can always leave me a review, 5-star preferably. And in your review, tell us which 3 films impacted your life. Best ones get read out on the podcast.
Hey there, Hugh from Podderation here. If you like today's show, why not check out Malt and Magic, a D&D podcast where things are almost literally homebrewed. Malt and Magic is a show that focuses on the immersive and collaborative natures of TTRPGs, working with a cast of amazing characters to create an epic hub where fantasy, mystery, sci-fi, horror, and cyberpunk all collide in one gripping, funny adventure. If you'd like to hear more, check out our website at podderation.com.